Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show that's your shortcut to being well-informed, extracting the most important nuggets of knowledge from a stack of sources. Today we're diving deep into a topic fundamental to all of us, really. Whether you're a parent, a leader, a student, or just curious, what truly makes a teacher effective? Our mission is to cut through the noise and deliver, actionable insights for anyone involved in education. And we're drawing from a foundational text that has, well, quite literally shaped millions of classrooms.
Exactly. And that foundational text is The First Days of School by Harry K. Wong and Rosemary T. Wong. And this isn't just some dry academic treatise, right? It's a practical blueprint for success, really renowned for its research-based strategies. The core premise is, well, it sounds simple, but it's profoundly impactful. It's this. What teachers do in the very first days of school, that initial week or two, that isn't just important. It fundamentally determines the success, or well, the lack of success, for the entire school year. So this deep dive, we're going to uncover the specific how-to behind this idea, moving beyond theory to, actual concrete application.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the start then. Wong's jump straight into that central question many educators wrestle with. What truly defines an effective teacher? And it's a question that goes far beyond just knowing your subject matter, doesn't it? It's not just about content knowledge.
You're absolutely right. Content knowledge is, of course, essential. Can't teach what you don't know. But the book clarifies it's surprisingly not the primary distinguishing factor of the really highly effective teachers. The Wongs, they kind of distill it down to three core characteristics. These are demonstrable behaviors, foundational skills that consistently predict success. Okay, so first, effective teachers embody positive expectations for student success. And this isn't just like wishful thinking. It's a deep-seated optimistic conviction that every single student, regardless of their background or, perceived ability, possesses untapped potential and can learn, grow, and achieve. It's the belief that really guides every interaction, every decision. Second, they exhibit exceptional classroom management. Now, this isn't about authoritarian discipline, okay? It's the masterful ability to organize students, to orchestrate the physical space, manage time efficiently, and prepare all the necessary materials in a way that just optimizes learning. It's about creating an environment where learning can and will happen. And third, they demonstrate lesson mastery. This means knowing how to meticulously design lessons that don't just cover material, right? But genuinely lead students to deep comprehension in the acquisition of, well, tangible skills. It's about ensuring that students aren't just busy, but are actively engaged in meaningful learning and achieving measurable success.
And what's crucial here, which the Wongs really emphasize, is that these aren't just survival concepts for, the newbies straight out of college. The book positions these characteristics as foundational for anyone aiming to make a significant difference in education. We're talking teachers from pre-K all the way up to 12, experienced veterans, pre-service teachers still in training, newly qualified teachers, mentor teachers guiding others, administrators shaping school culture, staff developers designing professional learning, even college professors. The book frames itself as a guide to jumpstart success for all of them, built from the myriad ideas shared by countless educators who've put these principles into practice. It really underscores that these are universal truths for effective pedagogy, not just like tips for the first year.
Exactly. And the power of these strategies is so evident in their widespread applicability and impact. You see it documented by the Wongs, and you see it in practice across really diverse settings. Take the example of Steve Guyman. He's an award-winning high school physical education teacher. He maximizes his teaching time by having students set up all the apparatus themselves. That's a direct application of effective classroom management and student responsibility. Or think about high school band directors who've applied these principles to quiet groups of 500 students, noisemakers and all, in mere seconds without uttering a word, purely through established procedures. These aren't just theoretical ideals, They're proven methods that allow educators to create environments where learning just thrives.
Right. It's clear these aren't just aspirations on paper, but practical, repeatable actions. So if you're listening, think about this. Which of these three areas, positive expectations, classroom management, or lesson mastery, which one do you think holds the most surprising insights? Maybe for teaching, or even for leadership and productivity in general. Keeping that question in mind, let's dive deeper into that first characteristic. Okay, here's where it gets really profound, I think. Let's delve into the incredible impact of expectations, specifically positive expectations. It's a concept that truly extends far beyond the classroom, right? It influences every human interaction. How do our beliefs, often totally unspoken about others, actually shape their reality and maybe unlock their potential?
This is truly a cornerstone. It's the psychological bedrock for effective teaching. And to really grasp this concept, we need to start with some groundbreaking research that laid the groundwork. Then we can explore how a teacher's own presentation and the entire classroom environment either reinforce or maybe subtly undermine these expectations.
Okay, so kick that off. Where did this idea of positive expectations first, like, dramatically reveal its power? Is there a classic study that really hammered this home?
Oh, definitely. That would be the iconic Rosenthal and Jacobson study from the 1960s, a landmark experiment that, well, it quite literally shook the educational world. Researchers, including Robert Rosenthal from Harvard, went into an elementary school called Oak School. They then randomly selected 20% of the students. And here's the key part. They told the teachers that these specific students were spurters or bloomers, on the verge of significant intellectual growth. And they said this was based on a supposedly new and highly accurate test. The catch. The test, the Harvard test of inflected acquisition, was entirely fake, completely made up. And the students were selected totally at random. The teachers were instructed not to tell the students or their parents about this supposed special status.
Wow. So the teachers genuinely believed these randomly selected kids were, like, intellectually gifted, destined for great things. What happened 8 months later when the students were retested?
Well, 8 months later, when all the students were retested using standard IQ measures, the special students in the primary grades, we're talking kindergarten, first, and second graders, they showed significant gains in IQ scores compared to their undesignated peers. It was a really remarkable difference. When the researchers revealed these results to the teachers themselves, they confidently attributed it to the students being inherently special. They said things like, of course we had special students to work with, it was easy and they learned so fast.
And then came the moment of truth, right? The real aha revelation.
Exactly. The researchers then disclosed the truth. The special children had been selected entirely at random. There was no actual basis in their initial IQ or aptitude scores, none at all. This left the teachers, well, momentarily stunned, as you can imagine. Their next reaction was, then it must have been us. You said we were special teachers selected for a special experiment. But again, the researchers clarified that all the teachers were part of the experiment. None were special over others. And this revealed the profound implication, the teacher's implicit, unspoken expectations, conveyed through their body language, their attitude, their subtle cues, had a tangible, measurable effect on the students' intellectual growth. As the researchers concluded, children who are expected by their teachers to gain intellectually, in fact, do show greater intellectual gains. It's just a powerful demonstration of how belief can, well, it really can become reality.
That's truly fascinating. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Or, in medicine, we call it a placebo effect, where the belief in a treatment, even if it's inert, can produce real physiological changes. Here, the teacher's belief, even though it was based on false information, acted as a catalyst for actual intellectual gains in their students.
It's an excellent analogy, yeah, because the underlying mechanism is quite similar, the sheer power of expectation and belief. It's not magic, obviously. It's more about the subtle shifts and interaction, the extra encouragement, the deeper engagement, the slightly more challenging questions that happen when you truly believe someone. Yeah, it might sound superficial, but it's actually far from it. It's about conveying professionalism and respect, which in turn commands respect from the students. The effective teacher understands that their appearance models success. The principle is pretty clear. As you are dressed, so shall you be perceived. And as you are perceived, so shall you be treated. It's not about students liking a teacher more because of their clothes, necessarily. It's about students respecting them. And research consistently confirms that a teacher's clothing affects their work, their attitude, and ultimately the student's learning environment. Just think about any professional setting, right? The perception of authority and competence is often subtly yet powerfully influenced by how one presents themselves. This is about establishing credibility before you even open your mouth.
So it's about establishing that authority and also a sense of care, maybe. What are the key elements the book emphasizes for professional appearance?
Well, the emphasis is on clean, pressed, and neat clothes, things that convey good hygiene, a sense of care for oneself, and, yeah, an air of authority. This subtle modeling also helps prepare students for the competitive global world economy by demonstrating professional conduct. It sets a standard. The Wongs even cite Charles Galloway's observation that elementary students tend to mirror their teacher's appearance in about 3 days. High school students, maybe 10 days. This unconscious mirroring kind of reinforces the idea that, well, if you don't seem to care about yourself, why should the students care about you or what you're teaching? It's a silent but powerful message.
Okay, that makes sense. This connection between subtle cues and profound impact brings us to invitational education. That's a concept introduced by William W. Perky back in 1978. It sounds like it's about creating a welcoming atmosphere, sure, but it seems to go much deeper than just being nice. How does the book elaborate on this?
It truly does go deeper. Invitational education is founded on the belief that the effective teacher is committed to seeing all people as able, valuable, responsible, and possessing untapped potential. It's a really comprehensive philosophy that impacts every aspect of the learning environment. It distinguishes between comments, behaviors, the physical environment, even self-talk that are either inviting or disinviting. The core idea is that human potential is always present, just waiting to be discovered and invited forth. So it's about actively creating an atmosphere where students feel seen, valued, and capable of growth.
Can you give us a compelling example of what that looks like in practice, beyond just the general principles?
Certainly. The book highlights a teacher named Cindy Wong in San Jose. She used an incredibly invitational approach for a back-to-school night. She had her students copy a personal letter to their parents and attached a gold foil crane and another personal letter from her. Her students were so excited about this special surprise that 25 out of 30 parents actually showed up.
Wow, that's a great turnout.
Isn't it? And this wasn't a mandated event, it was an invitation that sparked genuine engagement. Cindy then had the parents write notes back to their children, creating this positive, reciprocal invitation that really extended the welcoming atmosphere. And this contrasts sharply with disinviting cues, like a teacher sneering instead of smiling, or a classroom environment that's unkempt or unwelcoming. The environment, the behavior, the language, it all sends a message, doesn't it? And the concept even extends to our internal dialogue, our self-talk. Invitational thoughts might be, making mistakes is all right, or I could learn to do that. Disinviting self-talk, on the other hand, sounds like, why am I so stupid? Or I could never do that. The Wongs outline 4 levels of invitational practice: intentionally disinviting, unintentionally inviting, and intentionally inviting. The ultimate goal for an effective teacher is to be purposively and explicitly invitational, meaning it's a conscious, consistent, and deliberate effort to invite success and potential.
And what about something as simple as the power of courtesy? Using names, please, thank you. It seems so basic, maybe obvious, but the book highlights its foundational importance. Is it truly a classroom management tool?
Oh, it is absolutely fundamental. And yes, it's a powerful classroom management tool, not merely a polite nicety. Effective teachers consistently use student names, along with please and thank you, every time. And this isn't just about being polite, it's about fostering an atmosphere of mutual respect. Using a student's name like, Todd, please bring that paper here, says, I care enough to know who you are. That's huge. Adding please conveys respect rather than just barking orders. And thank you acknowledges his effort and kindness. These seemingly small acts communicate value and foster positive relationships, which are really the bedrock of a well-managed classroom. The Wongs even point out that for a child to learn a new behavior, you need to repeat it an average of 8 times, maybe even more to unlearn an old, ingrained behavior. So consistently modeling courtesy is absolutely key to embedding these positive behaviors into the classroom culture.
And finally, under this umbrella of positive expectations, there's the idea of the caring connection. It seems obvious that students respond to a teacher who cares, but the book frames it in a very specific, impactful way.
It's definitely more than just a feeling. It's a crucial dimension of effectiveness. The Wongs assert that when you look at the truly effective teachers, you will also find caring, warm, lovable people. Years later, students consistently remember the teachers who genuinely cared about them as individuals. Effective teachers understand they offer both a product, the subject matter, and a service, enhancing the quality of their students' lives. They connect with what Jim Trelease observed. Millions of students arrive in classrooms in search of a light in the darkness of their lives, a good Samaritan. This really highlights the profound human need for attention and connection that teachers are uniquely positioned to provide, often acting as a stable, positive adult influence in children's lives. So, to kind of micro recap this initial pillar, cultivating positive expectations is a really multifaceted approach. Your core beliefs, your professional presence, your intentional invitations, even simple courtesies, they all intertwine. They create a powerfully positive and productive learning environment. It fundamentally shapes how students perceive their own potential and their place in your classroom.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What stands out to you about how profound a teacher's unspoken expectations can be? And how might that apply beyond the classroom? Maybe in coaching, parenting, or even just in everyday interactions. How much might we be inadvertently shaping the potential of those around us? Okay, so You've got the positive expectations in place. You're fostering that belief in every student's potential. But what does this all mean for the daily grind in the classroom? How does an effective teacher create an environment where learning can actually happen, rather than just being a chaotic space?
Right. This brings us squarely to the second pillar, mastering classroom management. And we can break this down. First, we need to understand the critical distinction between management and discipline. They are not the same thing. Then, we'll highlight the absolute necessity of being prepared. You cannot wing this. And finally, we'll examine the transformative role of clear procedures and routines.
Okay, let's start with that crucial distinction. The Wongs draw a very sharp line right away. Manage, don't discipline. What's the core difference here, and why is it so foundational?
Well, the book states it unequivocally. Effective teachers manage their classrooms. Ineffective teachers discipline their classrooms. This is a fundamental paradigm shift for many. The Wongs use a really striking analogy of running a restaurant. Knowing how to cook a steak, that's like content knowledge. It's secondary to knowing how to manage the entire operation. You know, the accounting, regulations, sanitation, staffing, customer relations, all of that. Similarly, having a degree in English doesn't automatically make you a teacher. Managing a classroom full of students does. Classroom management, then, refers to all things a teacher does to organize student space, time, and materials so that learning can actually take place. It's foundational, like the bedrock of any successful enterprise, really. Disorganized teachers, the book points out, they constantly interrupt learning because they're always reacting to chaos rather than proactively preventing it. They tend to think only about delivering content, not about setting up the environment for success first. And the impact of a well-managed classroom is profound. There's this teacher lauded for his organization, John Schmidt. His students actually said, "It's so much fun coming to this school because everyone knows what to do. As a result, no one is yelling and screaming at us, and we can get on with learning."
That says a lot.
Doesn't it? It underscores that management isn't about control through force. It's about creating a productive, predictable environment that fosters student involvement and cooperation. It's about being an architect of order, basically, enabling learning to flourish.
That leads directly to the second point, then. The prepared classroom and teacher. It sounds like an obvious idea, maybe, but the Wongs emphasize it as a real make-or-break element. Why is readiness so paramount? And what does ready actually entail for a teacher?
Because, as Sun Tzu's timeless adage goes, all battles are won before they are fought. It's classic wisdom. The Wongs apply this directly to the classroom. Teachers who are ready maximize student learning and minimize student misbehavior. It's that simple. It's absolutely imperative to have the room ready and inviting before students even walk in on the first day. This pre-planning prevents so many problems and sets a powerful tone right away. Think about it. If you're not ready for a sales call or a job interview, you're already at a disadvantage, right? Same in the classroom. If you don't structure it, the students will structure it for you, and probably not in a way that's conducive to learning. So what does ready entail? Well, it can be broken down into 4 key areas. First, preparing the physical room itself, arranging furniture to facilitate tasks, designating clear areas for student belongings, backpacks, coats, whatever. Second, preparing wall space, not just for decoration, but to display student work, the discipline plan, consistent locations for assignments, visual anchors. Third, meticulously organizing materials so all basic supplies, pencils, paper, stapler are readily available and labeled. No hunting around mid-lesson. And finally, preparing yourself. Securing valuables, having emergency materials handy, ensuring all routine forms are immediately accessible. This level of meticulous preparation communicates competence and confidence to students from the moment they walk in. Sends a clear message. This is a place of order and purpose.
That makes perfect sense. It's about removing friction before it even appears. Okay, this brings us to perhaps the most significant aspect of classroom management, according to the book: procedures and routines. The book seems to distinguish these very sharply from rules or discipline. What exactly is a procedure in the Wong's framework?
That's right. They are very clear on this. The Wongs emphatically state, procedures are not found in a discipline plan, nor should a procedure be a threat, a rule, or an order. A procedure is simply a method or process for getting things done. That's it. Think of it like unlocking a lock. There's no penalty if you don't follow the procedure. The lock just won't open. And there's no reward if you do, it just opens.
Okay.
You just follow the steps to achieve a desired outcome. The book strongly asserts that student success or achievement is directly related to the degree to which the teacher establishes good control of the classroom procedures in the very first week. Procedures are the engine of a smoothly functioning classroom. They make it predictable and efficient.
So these are the how-tos of the classroom, basically.
Yeah.
Covering everything from entering the room to dismissing class.
Exactly. Real life is absolutely full of procedures, right? How to use a telephone book, well, maybe not anymore, but you get the idea.
Mhm.
Airplane safety briefings, traffic lights, even the exit order at a wedding ceremony.
Right.
In the classroom, this means having clear procedures for everything. How to enter the classroom, what to do immediately upon entering, where to find assignments, how to get the teacher's attention, how a paper should be formatted, where to turn in papers, how to sharpen pencils, what to do if you were absent, how class is dismissed, all of it. Every classroom needs a clear set of procedures to operate smoothly and efficiently, minimizing disruptions and maximizing learning time.
And how do effective teachers ensure students actually learn and follow these procedures, not just being told about them once? It seems like repetition would be key here.
It's absolutely key, and it's a critical three-step process. Explain, rehearse, and reinforce. The Wongs stress that students must see, feel, and experience each procedure. It's not enough to just tell them, not at all. You demonstrate it, then you have them rehearse it, like physically walk them through it repeatedly if needed. For instance, for dismissal, you explain it, then maybe have them practice sitting quietly at their desks until you actually dismiss them, row by row, perhaps. This repetition makes the procedure routine almost automatic, usually by the third or fourth day. This systematic practice creates what the Wongs call a classroom culture, a kind of prevailing, unspoken understanding of how things are done. Much like how people instinctively let others off an elevator before getting on, you know?
Yeah.
That predictability fosters a sense of security for students and frees up their cognitive space for learning, rather than worrying about basic mechanics.
Okay, on a more administrative note, let's talk about efficient role-taking. The book suggests avoiding it right at the very start of class, which is, I think, counter to what many might instinctively do. What are the effective alternatives?
Indeed. The effective teacher starts the class immediately with an assignment, not role-taking. That's a core principle. Wasting 5 or more minutes at the beginning of class on roll call is a significant drain on valuable learning time, what the Wongs call academic prime time. Those ineffective methods, like loudly calling out names or whispering names while looking down, the gradebook mumbler, or asking the class about absent students, the detective, they're inefficient, they raise the noise level, and frankly, they demonstrate a lack of control. Instead, effective methods allow the teacher to do those administrative tasks, like roll-taking, quickly and quietly after students are already engaged in an assignment. Without disturbing the learning process, this could involve simply scanning a seating chart, or having students pick up personal folders or name tags at the door. The empty spots indicate absence, or using name tags for a bulletin board check-in. The key principle is that student on-task work is paramount, so it should be protected from those non-prime time activities.
And related to that, maintaining grade records. It's not just about compliance, right? It's really understanding student progress. How do effective teachers approach this?
Absolutely. It's a tool for understanding. Effective teachers proactively plan out the records they need before the year starts. They construct a grade record book to track student results and progress at all times. The Wongs highlight Merle J. Whaley's 3-line attendance and grade record book. It allows teachers to record attendance or skills on the first line, scores from daily work, quizzes, tests on the second, and a running total on the third. Very practical. And the purpose here isn't just to assign arbitrary points or grade on a curve, which, let's be honest, pits students against each other.
Right.
The purpose is to determine what an individual student needs to learn and to provide targeted feedback for improvement. Teachers don't give grades in this view. Students earn them through demonstrated learning.
Okay, and finally, under management, we need to discuss discipline plans. This forms the structure for behavior in the classroom. What are the core components the Wongs identify?
Right, the discipline plan. The basic structure consists of 3 parts: rules, consequences, and rewards. Simple, but powerful if done right. Research consistently shows the most effective schools are characterized by a well-ordered environment. That structure is key. Rules are simply the expectations for appropriate student behavior. The Wongs recommend a maximum of 3 to 5 rules. Keep it simple and memorable. And they advise new teachers, especially, to use specific rules. Things like follow directions the first time they are given, or raise your hand and wait for permission to speak. These are better than general ones like respect others, which can be ambiguous and require more explanation, especially early on. And importantly, academic behaviors like doing homework should not be listed as classroom rules. That's a separate expectation. These rules must be posted clearly on day 1, visible to everyone. Now, rules are most effective when they have consequences to enforce them, and these consequences must be consistent and predictable. That's crucial. The Wongs categorize them as warnings, penalties, or punishments, perhaps escalating. Methods for tracking broken rules can include quietly writing a student's name or a check mark on a chalkboard or transparency without interrupting the lesson flow. Minimal disruption. And when a student inevitably asks, "Why are you picking on me?" the effective teacher's consistent response should be, "You chose to break the rule." This consistently teaches personal responsibility and accountability. It shifts the focus. Then, on the flip side, there are rewards. While acknowledging that everyone likes recognition, the Wongs strongly caution against what they call wholesale bribery. The endless distribution of stickers and candy for basic compliance.
Yeah, the sticker chart trap.
Exactly. The best reward, they assert, is the satisfaction of a job well done. This fosters internal motivation, self-discipline. A powerful class-wide reward, they suggest, is maybe 30 minutes of free time on Friday, earned through cooperative effort throughout the week. Something meaningful. Now, the crucial step for the entire discipline plan is communication. You have to communicate it. The plan rules, consequences, rewards must be posted, discussed thoroughly with the students, and then copies should be sent home for parent signatures. Everyone's on the same page. And the plan needs to be activated daily through consistent and predictable behavior from the teacher, demonstrating that the teacher is in control, has high expectations, and follows through. So, to sort of summarize on classroom management, it's really about proactively creating a predictable, task-oriented environment. You do that through meticulous preparation and clear procedures. It's not about reacting with constant discipline. An ordered environment is fundamentally a learning environment. It sets the stage for everything else that happens.
That's a great summary. And it makes you think, if you're looking for that aha moment in your own organization, maybe a team in work or even just your family life, where might implementing clear procedures and consistent expectations make the biggest difference for you? It's powerful when you start applying these principles outside the classroom, isn't it? Okay, so you get a classroom running smoothly. It's a well-oiled machine, right? Positive expectations are in the air. Clear procedures guide behavior. Now, how do you ensure that students aren't just busy, but are actually learning deeply, mastering concepts, acquiring skills? What about the academic core of it all?
Right. This is where lesson mastery comes in. It's the third characteristic of an effective teacher. We'll explore how effective teachers move beyond just covering material, checking boxes, to meticulously designing lessons for true comprehension. We'll focus on maximizing academic learning time, the power of really clear assignments and objectives, and finally, using testing for mastery and corrective action.
Okay, let's start with maximizing academic learning time. What exactly is academic learning time, and why is it so critical?
Okay. Academic learning time, sometimes called ALT, is the actual provable or demonstrable amount of time a student spends successfully learning what the teacher intended them to learn. It's quite distinct from allocated time, which is just the scheduled time for school, 180 days, 6-7 hours a day, or for a specific activity within that time. The research cited in the book indicates that only about 35% of that allocated time actually translates into demonstrable academic learning time.
Only 35%?
Yeah, it's surprisingly low, right? And the Wongs emphasize that the only way to increase student achievement is to design lessons in which students will know what to do, work hard at it, and successfully complete the assignment. It's about successful engagement.
So it's not just about being present or even looking engaged. It's about tangible learning and actual accomplishment taking place.
Exactly. Ineffective teachers, the book argues, spend time covering materials. They're focused on getting through the textbook pages. But effective teachers have students spend time working and earning their own achievement and success. This is a really critical distinction. The fundamental truth is the person who does the work is the only one who learns. Think about that. If a teacher is doing all the talking, all the demonstrating, all the work, then the teacher is actually doing most of the learning.
Interesting point.
Isn't it? Think of it like a restaurant owner versus the cooks and wait staff, or a construction foreman versus the crew. The workers are doing the work. And in school, the student must be the primary worker, not the teacher. So to increase student academic learning time, effective teachers implement 3 key strategies. First, they have an assignment posted daily that students begin immediately upon entering the classroom, no dead time. Second, they meticulously teach procedures and routines to minimize interruptions, thus maximizing that uninterrupted learning time. And third, they constantly monitor students circulating, checking in to keep them on task, and engaged in productive work. This really shifts the classroom from a place where the teacher performs to a place where students actively achieve.
That leads us directly to the power of clear assignments and objectives. It seems obvious that fuzzy assignments inevitably lead to fuzzy learning, right? What distinguishes a truly effective assignment?
Absolutely. Clarity is everything here. The Wongs assert that an ineffective assignment results when the teacher tells the class what will be covered. That's too vague. In contrast, effective assignments have structure and be precise. This means a few things. They must have a consistent, familiar format so students know what to expect. They need to be posted daily in a consistent location before students enter the room. Again, maximizing time. And most importantly, they must clearly state what students are to accomplish using action words or thinking words. Verbs. Every sentence in an effective assignment begins with a verb. Tells the student exactly what to do.
This sounds exactly like learning objectives, or maybe learning criteria. How does the book suggest writing these to ensure clarity and purpose?
Yes, that's essentially what they are. Objectives are what a student must achieve to demonstrate learning, comprehension, or mastery. They serve two crucial purposes: to assign giving clear direction on what to learn, and to assess determining if more study is needed later. Objectives must be written before the lesson is even planned in detail, and they need to be given to students when the lesson begins so they know the target. The Wongs advocate using Bloom's taxonomy as a really practical framework for writing these objectives. The process they outline involves two simple steps. Step 1. Pick an action verb from Bloom's taxonomy. The categories like knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. And it's important to vary these verbs, right, to challenge students at different levels of thinking, not just simple recall all the time.
Right, get beyond just remembering facts.
Exactly. Step 2. Complete the sentence, specifying what is to be performed or mastered. So, for example, instead of a vague assignment like know about Antarctica, an effective objective might be compare the weather at the South Pole on December 1st and June 1st. That requires analysis. Or maybe devise a healthy diet for a week-long trek into the mountains. That requires synthesis. The book really stresses using active verbs like list, create, explain, define, draw, or assess, and avoiding those ineffective fuzzy ones like know, understand, or appreciate. Those aren't measurable actions.
Okay, so once lessons are designed around these clear, actionable objectives, then you know if students have actually learned. This leads to testing for mastery and corrective action.
Precisely. The major reason for giving a test, according to the Wrongs, is to find out if the students have accomplished the objectives of the assignment. It's diagnostic. Tests and assignments must be written concomitantly, meaning at the same time. They have to align perfectly and correlate directly. Tests are definitely not for checking teacher coverage of materials, nor are they for creating some arbitrary point spread for grading on a curve. Their purpose is simply to determine what an individual student needs to learn next. The book differentiates clearly between formative tests and summative tests. Formative tests are given during the learning process. Their whole point is to identify what remediation is needed right now. If a student misses an objective on a formative test, the teacher must assign a corrective activity. And this corrective should be presented in a different form or use a different explanation, not just repeating the same thing. This leads to a cycle of tests and corrects, aiming for, say, 80–90% mastery for each assignment before moving on. Summative tests, in contrast, are given at the end of a unit to sum up the overall learning for a grade. More traditional, maybe. And the Wongs cite Benjamin Bloom's really significant research here. It showed that students taught through a mastery learning approach, where they receive that corrective action until they master each objective, can outperform 98% of students taught conventionally.
98%. That's huge.
It's incredible, isn't it? It shows the power of this approach. So the goal of grading, then, is not to compare or punish, but to provide feedback and determine individual learning needs, reinforcing that idea that teachers don't give grades, students earn them through demonstrated mastery. So to sum up on lesson mastery, effective teachers don't just cover content, they design for learning. This involves maximizing the time students are actively working and achieving, crafting assignments with precise, action-oriented objectives, and using tests as tools for diagnosis and corrective action, ensuring students truly master the material. The student, not the teacher, is the primary worker in the learning process. That's the shift.
It makes you think. How might thinking about academic learning time or using action verbs in your own goals revolutionize how you approach productivity? Whether it's at work or in your personal projects, it certainly shifts the focus from just being busy to actual accomplishment, doesn't it? Okay, so you've designed lessons for mastery. You're ensuring individual students are engaged in learning deeply. But what about the magic that happens when students work together? How does an effective teacher harness that collective power to amplify learning and skill development?
Ah, yes. This brings us to cooperative learning, a really powerful instructional technique that the Wongs champion as essential for an effective classroom. We can clarify what cooperative learning truly is because it's often misunderstood. Then we can delve into its numerous research-backed benefits, discuss some practical implementation strategies, and then maybe conclude with some compelling real-world parallels that demonstrate its universal power.
Okay, let's start there. What exactly is cooperative learning? It sounds like just group work, maybe, but the book implies it's much more nuanced than that.
It is indeed much more than just putting students in groups and hoping for the best. Cooperative learning, as defined by the Wongs, is fundamentally a win-win situation. It involves students working in small, often mixed ability learning groups. And here's the key. Each student is responsible not only for their own learning, but also for the learning of their group mates. It's a symbiotic relationship, really, described as cooperating to learn as much as learning to cooperate. Both happen simultaneously. The goal is mutual success, where students are actively clarifying opinions, comparing impressions, sharing information, and helping one another complete assigned activities within a structured framework. It emphasizes that students have a vested interest in ensuring everyone in their group succeeds, fostering a collective achievement mindset rather than a purely competitive one.
And what are the benefits of this approach? The source material mentions research by Robert Slavin and Roger Johnson. What makes this such an effective strategy?
Well, the research on cooperative learning highlights a really impressive array of benefits. For students academically, it leads to higher quality reasoning strategies. It encourages higher level processing and deeper thinking about the material as they explain it to each other. And beyond academics, it's crucial for developing essential life skills, things like leadership, communication, decision-making, and conflict management. Skills that are absolutely invaluable for future success, both in school and careers.
The soft skills.
Exactly, the crucial soft skills. From a social-emotional perspective, students in cooperative groups tend to develop more positive peer relationships, better social skills overall, and higher self-esteem. They also tend to like the class better, are more interested in the subject, and become more self-disciplined within that group structure. And from the teacher's perspective, cooperative learning can significantly alleviate stress. It does this by decentralizing problem solving. When students are actively helping each other and taking shared responsibility for their learning, it reduces the teacher's burden to constantly maintain order and address every single individual learning gap.
All right, the teacher isn't the only resource.
Precisely. This creates a more relaxed, yet still highly productive learning environment for everyone, where the teacher facilitates, guides, rather than just dictates everything.
So how is this put into practical implementation in the classroom? How do you form these groups effectively? And how do you ensure everyone genuinely contributes and learns, avoiding that common pitfall of group work where, one person does everything?
Yeah, that's a common concern. A key aspect is how students are grouped. The Wongs emphasize that students should be able to divide themselves quickly and effectively into groups when needed. Procedures help here too. Groups aren't necessarily fixed. Their size, maybe 2 to 8 people, depends on the specific activity. The goal is to avoid those awkward situations where students don't even know each other's names after months together. That kind of anonymity can lead to misbehavior and reluctance to cooperate. Crucially, effective cooperative learning involves roles and accountability. This is vital. Each group member is assigned a specific job for the task, maybe an equipment manager, a facilitator, a recorder, a group report overseer, something like that. Now, this doesn't mean one person does all the work for that role. It means each person has a defined responsibility to ensure their part of the task is completed and that everyone in the group understands it. This fosters individual accountability for the team's work. Everyone has a stake. Another vital element is providing clear instructions. This sounds basic, but it's critical. For group activities, especially with older students who might be hesitant to ask questions, precise verbal and written directions are essential. The instructions must explicitly state what is to be done, how to do it, avoiding any ambiguity that can lead to frustration and disengagement. Students need to understand the purpose of the activity, the steps involved, and their individual responsibilities within the group structure.
This sounds incredibly effective in the classroom setting. But how do these principles translate to the larger world? Are there real-world parallels that demonstrate the power of cooperative learning beyond education?
Oh, absolutely. The Wongs provide some really compelling examples from the corporate world, showing this isn't just school stuff. One of the most famous is the NUMMI story. That was a partnership between General Motors and Toyota back in the 80s. The former GM plant in Fremont, California was notorious for high absenteeism, low productivity, poor quality, just really struggling.
Right, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. But when it reopened as DMMI in 1984 under a Japanese-inspired team concept, it was dramatically transformed. Teams of 4 to 8 employees under a team leader were responsible for all jobs in their area of the production line. And critically, all team members learned and rotated through every job. This emphasis on participation, sharing ideas, collective problem solving. It led to NMMI becoming one of the most productive plants in North America, consistently ranking among the top for quality according to J.D. Power for years. Another powerful example is the Honda story at their big factory in Marysville, Ohio. Here, 13,000 associates, notice the term, not workers, work in groups.
Interesting distinction.
It is, and a core procedure is that each group submits complaints and suggestions to management at the end of every single shift. They have to answer 3 questions. What was the problem? What'd you do about it? What is your suggestion for a long-term solution? This highlights how empowering workers within groups to solve problems right where they happen drives quality and excellence. The comparison the book makes is stark. Japanese employees average about 24 implemented suggestions per year, while U.S. workers averaged around 0.14 at the time.
Big difference.
Huge. These examples really reinforce that the principles of cooperative learning aren't merely academic theories. They are practiced and proven in highly successful competitive environments, fostering innovation, quality, and productivity. So to quickly sum up cooperative learning, it's a structured, win-win instructional method. It not only enhances academic achievement through deeper processing and shared responsibility, but it also cultivates vital life skills like leadership, communication, and conflict resolution, proving its value far beyond the classroom walls.
It really connects to the bigger picture, doesn't it? How might fostering a team concept within your own daily life, or maybe even your family, create unexpectedly positive outcomes? It certainly offers a fresh perspective on shared responsibility and collective achievement, rather than just relying solely on individual effort. Okay, let's unpack this even further now. Beyond the immediate classroom techniques and strategies we've discussed, what does it truly mean to embody teaching as a profession, not just, a job? How does one continually evolve as an educator?
Right. This leads us to the final and maybe most profound understanding in the book, the continual evolution. From worker to professional educator. We need to explore the distinctions between these two mindsets. They're quite different. We can discuss the spectrum of human behaviors the Wongs outline and the profound rewards of continuous growth and contribution that define a true professional in any field, but especially education.
Okay, let's delve into that. The Wongs make a very clear distinction between a worker versus a leader, or what they call a professional educator. What are the defining characteristics of each mindset, according to them?
Well, the book paints a really vivid contrast. Workers, they explain, are primarily concerned with 2 things: time and money. That's their focus. They might negotiate for longer breaks, shorter hours, more pay. They often view their role as just a job. They can be prone to complaining, sometimes unwilling to learn beyond what's absolutely required, and tend to blame others for problems, often seeing themselves as victims of the system. Their outlook might be summed up as another day, another dollar. You see them tired, maybe focused on the bare minimum to get by. Leaders, or professional educators on the other hand, they are concerned with enhancement and cooperation. Their focus is different. They view teaching as a career, a lifetime pursuit of learning and growth. Not just punching a clock, they are proactive. They possess clear plans, goals, and a vision for what they want to achieve. They tend to dress for success, not just for the job description. They actively seek out learning opportunities, attend conferences, read journals. They compliment others, strive for results, and earn respect through their contributions and their attitude. They're often energized and always looking for ways to improve themselves and their community. As the book says, a job is for earning a living. A career is for a lifetime pursuit. Big difference in mindset.
The Wongs offer a fascinating analogy with an honest mechanic, Al Sisson, who compulsively read automotive magazines. What was his core belief, and how does that relate to a teacher's professional growth?
Yes, Al Sisson. He was the Wong's mechanic, and Harry Wong noticed he was always reading automotive journals. When asked why, Al famously replied, "If I didn't, I'd go broke."
Oh, simple as that.
Simple, but profound. He was a professional in the truest sense. He understood that continuous learning was absolutely essential for his livelihood and effectiveness. Without anyone telling him to do it, it was intrinsic. The Wongs contrast this sharply with many teachers who, unfortunately, don't regularly read education journals or access professional websites, effectively going broke in their professional growth, you might say. It highlights that the drive to learn must come from within. It's not about external mandates or requirements, but an internal commitment to excellence and staying current. And this distinction between worker and leader also ties into the idea of decision versus choice. This is subtle but important. Workers, the Wongs explain, often let other people make their decisions. They defer. They're like the person at a restaurant who can't decide what to order and just says, oh, I'll have what they're having.
Right, pass it.
Exactly. This makes them victims, in a sense, as they cede control of their lives and direction. Leaders, conversely, make the choices themselves. They actively control their lives and accept the consequences, whether those are positive or negative. They own it. They give the example of Laura, a worker teacher, who retired at 53, still asking, when does the good life begin? Because she never really made active choices about her career or growth. She always just put in her time without that internal drive or vision. She chose, perhaps unconsciously, to be a victim of circumstance rather than a chooser of her path.
So if we look at human behavior on a broader scale, the book uses the normal distribution of human behaviors, the bell curve, to categorize people's approach to life and work. What are these three categories, and how do they manifest in, say, a school environment?
Right, the bell curve analogy. It illustrates that behaviors generally fall into three broad categories. Protective, about 20%. Maintenance, the majority, 60%. And enhancement, the other 20%. Protective people tend to rationalize and complain a lot. They blame these people or those administrators. They might frequent the teacher's lounge primarily to spread negativity. They actively try to prevent positive change because maybe it might make them look bad or create more work. Their behavior is ultimately self-defeating and can even spread toxicity to others. Maintenance people, the largest group at 60%, they cope, hope, and survive. They are the hardworking backbone of society, often primarily concerned with paying bills and getting by. They don't typically complain excessively or lie, but they are reactive. They tend to go with the flow. They might wish things would change, maybe hope for external solutions like winning the lottery.
Waiting for things to happen to them.
Exactly. While not toxic like protective people, their behavior often leads to stagnation because they don't do anything to actively improve their situation or the situation around them. Finally, enhancement people, the other 20%. They participate, learn, and grow. These are the we people, the leaders and professionals. They actively seek out conferences, volunteer for committees, form collaborative groups. They embody the essence of a learning community, constantly striving for improvement. They are self-enhancing, and they provide nourishment and positive energy to those around them. This breakdown applies directly to teachers, illustrating why perhaps only a certain percentage actively achieve much more, because they choose to operate in that enhancement category.
This sounds a lot like the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the effort yields 80% of the results. Does the book connect that here?
It does make that connection directly. The Pareto principle, stating that 20% of the people own 80% of the wealth, and vice versa, is applied metaphorically to teachers. The Wongs argue that 20% of teachers achieve much more because they operate in that enhancement category. They're the high-impact group. They use a sports analogy, too. A losing team often botches itself into defeat through its own errors, turnovers, rather than being beaten solely by the opponent's superior skill takeovers.
And making unforced errors.
Precisely. This underscores that success isn't always about grand, heroic gestures. It's often about avoiding self-defeating behaviors and focusing on small, consistent, self-driven efforts. Small wins add up. Ultimately, the book concludes that all that separates a person from success or failure is one word: attitude. That choice to be enhancing, not protective or just maintaining.
So it really boils down to a relentless pursuit of continuous learning and professional development. What does that look like in practice for a professional educator beyond just attending the mandatory workshops?
Exactly. The Wongs contend that the rewards in education and in life go to the person who is a professional. And they define a professional as someone who, without supervision, constantly learns and grows. It's self-directed. They highlight the National Board Certified Teacher (NBCT) designation as a prime example. It's a rigorous, year-long assessment requiring hundreds of hours of work and a significant fee. And while there are often financial rewards attached, most NBCTs report being driven primarily by a profound sense of self-fulfillment and growth. It's about mastery and contribution, not just the stipend.
Intrinsic motivation again.
Absolutely. It's not about external pressure, but that internal drive for excellence. So strategies for continuous learning include things like actively attending conferences, not just showing up, but engaging, sharing ideas generously with colleagues, even simple things like choosing to move to the front rows at meetings, a subtle but powerful choice indicating engagement and seriousness. welcoming students with a genuine smile every day. These are active verbs: go, move, share, welcome, compared to the more sedentary verbs of worker teachers who might sit in the faculty lounge complaining or gaze at their watches waiting for the bell. The Longs also strongly emphasize the power of support groups and peer coaching, noting that research shows teachers often learn more in these collaborative networks than through traditional top-down.
And finally, there's a very powerful point that seems to bring everything together, connecting professional behavior to a fundamental civil right. The greatest civil right is the right of equal opportunity. How does the book interpret this in the context of a teacher's growth and choices?
This is a really profound metaphorical and literal point they make. The Wongs draw a direct parallel between historical discrimination, where certain groups were forced to sit at the back of buses or meetings, and a professional's choice to sit in the back today. The back of an auditorium, they note, is often the hottest, most crowded, most uncomfortable, and most distracting place, often filled with negative or disengaged people. By choosing to sit there, one implicitly limits their own opportunities to see clearly, hear effectively, learn fully, and engage meaningfully. Thanks to pioneers like Rosa Parks, we now have, legally at least, equal access to all opportunities. Professional educators then embody this equal opportunity by being proactive, arriving early, choosing to sit up front, seeking out handouts, engaging with the speaker. They are proactive choosers, taking advantage of the opportunity presented. They assert powerfully that your odds of success in whatever you choose to do are 1-to-1.
1-to-1, meaning?
Meaning it's about competing against yourself. It's about your choices, your attitude, your effort. Not primarily about external competition or circumstance. It's a powerful call to personal agency and self-mastery, taking responsibility for your own growth. So, to quickly summarize this final section on continual evolution, it's really about a profound shift in mindset. Moving from a job-focused worker mentality driven by time and money, maybe prone to blame, to a career-oriented leader or professional, one who embraces continuous learning, makes active choices, contributes positively to a professional learning community, and takes responsibility for their own growth. This self-driven enhancement ultimately leads not only to greater professional effectiveness, but also to greater personal happiness and success in life.
This really raises an important question for all of us, I think. When you reflect on your own approach to work, to life in general, do you see yourself as more of a decider, passively letting things happen, or a chooser, actively shaping your path? And what might that imply about the path you're currently on, and perhaps the potential you have yet to unleash? Food for thought there. As we bring this deep dive to a close, it's abundantly clear that The First Days of School by Harry K. Wong and Rosemary T. Wong offers far more than just first-day tips. It's really a foundational philosophy for effectiveness. It reinforces that central message. The initial days of school are profoundly transformative, setting the tone for the entire year, and that a teacher's success truly hinges on those three core characteristics we discussed: positive expectations, exceptional classroom management, and true lesson mastery.
Absolutely. And if we connect these concepts back to the broader societal impact, the urgency becomes even clearer, doesn't it? The Wongs remind us quite starkly that our children, humanity's most precious resource, are an endangered species. They cite some alarming statistics: 500,000 students dropping out annually at the time of writing, 175,000 homeless children, a sharp increase in single mothers, 40 million adults with low literacy skills struggling to help their own kids. Children are often caught in a maelstrom of cultural and social problems, as they put it. And in this context, the teacher's role is just immense. They write, "We may be the only stable adult in their lives. We may be the only people able to pass culture on to them. We may be their only hope." It's a heavy responsibility.
And despite this critical role and the undeniable challenges, the book underscores the profound truth about teachers. They are, in fact, an intelligent and accomplished group of people. Every single teacher holds at least a college degree, and nearly half possess advanced degrees. The Wongs boldly declared teachers to be the intellectual elite of America. This really challenges any lingering perception that teachers are somehow poor and forlorn, emphasizing their immense qualifications and inherent worth in society.
It truly reaffirms individual agency and potential. The book concludes with this powerful affirmation: you are designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, endowed with the seeds of greatness. It echoes that profound wisdom. One art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. If you can teach a lesson for a day, but if you teach curiosity, you teach for a lifetime. The mission of teaching, then, isn't merely to impart facts, but to inspire that lifelong pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement, to see and nurture the potential in every single individual.
So, given the immense potential within every teacher, and really within every person listening, and the critical need in our society, What single choice, big or small, will you make this week to not just go through the motions, but to truly lead in your own sphere of influence? By embracing that idea that you are designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. Because, as the truly expert educator knows, and as this book makes so clear, the learning and the leading never really stop.